and welcome into my studio. My name is Tammy Ernest and I am a long arm quilter. And here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own projects. Today we're going to be talking about my June sew sampler box that I received in the mail. We will also be discussing leaders and enders. I've had some questions about that, my process there and the things I make with my leaders and enders. And then at the end we will discuss these client quilts. I believe I have 4 today. There's one sitting on the desk and some big quilts, some scrappy quilts today. So that'll be fun to do. So let's start with my sew sampler box. Mine was a little late in coming. I just received it the other day. There were some problems with delivery, and so it finally arrived. And I'm always so excited when this comes. So this is the June box, and it always has a little insert there when you first open it, and has some cute little sayings. This one says, "Life is good in June." And then on the back of this, though, it always shares a good coupon. And this is for a percentage off of a pre-cut. So there's always a coupon, and it's usually a really good deal. So a neat way for them to give back to those who subscribe to the box. So let me first say, for those of you who are new, that the Sew Sampler box is a monthly subscription that the Fat Quarter Shop does. And I'll put links down below, so if you're interested in getting this, it's a once-a-month box, and there are always, there's always a pre-cut of fabric, and there's a pattern, and goodies in here, and that's what we're gonna go through. So this month, the fabric is a fat 1/8 bundle of Camille Roskelley's new line called Sunnyside. And this has, I've already taken it out of the package. This has to me it has a very fall feel to it. It has some rusty maroon colors here. This one is sort of an orange. Let me just show you bigger. Just has the feel of more of a fall, that kind of a pale orange with the pink flowers on it though. And then here is another couple more. This may be the same fabric that I got for my pressed flowers blocks. It looks so similar, but kind of how would I describe this? Pink with the mauve type of a color. And then here's a pale green and another green, and the same print is then also in blue, and then another blue, and then a couple darker blue ones that here's the small scale flowered print, and then a large scale flower print, 2 different ones. So like I said, it has a very fall feel to me anyway. And so do you remember last week I shared the 2022 designer mystery block of the month that Fat Quarter Shop did, and it was a beautiful quilt. Also used Camille Roskelley's line, not this line, what was that? Nantucket was the name of that line. Beautiful quilt. I so enjoyed it, and I've had several more people contact me and saying, could you do mine too? That was such a beautiful finish. So I can't wait that I get to do so many more of those. But the 2023 designer mystery block of the month that Fat Quarter Shop is using this fabric line. Now, from what I am looking on the website, I think that's closed. I think they've sold out of all of there's a limited number of memberships that you can do with that, and it appears to be closed. But if you got in on that, you're using some really pretty fabric. And a big part of the quilt, from what I can see from the glimpses that they give you of the quilt, it looks like this one is a pretty big part of the quilt. It may be in borders or something from what I'm seeing on the quilt, but that is the fabric line that they are using. But in the Fat Quarter Shop subscription box here, they do include a pattern, and this is called Dinah. And this uses this fat 1/8 bundle and also a white background. Then I don't know if that, it's a, they give the SKU number, but it must be in that same line. It's more, it looks, the green looks more along this color. Is that part of the quilt right there? Those half square triangles in the bigger corners. And then a darker blue for the binding, which to me looks like not one of these prints, but this dark blue background that's in this one is what it looks like for the binding on that one. The quilt measures 53 by 53, so a really cute one. And usually these patterns are exclusive to the subscription box. If I can find it, I will link it, but usually you can only get these if you have the subscription box. So I'm gonna plan on making that one. I may go ahead and order the other fabrics from Fat Quarter Shop, and I need to do a better job of staying up with these quilts when they come in. 53 by 53, you know, it's a nice, you know, lap size or something, and I could be making these each month and stocking up on my wedding gifts, because my kids are of the age, and the families that we are friends and families all have kids about the same age, and I can't tell you right now how many we have really literally had. One side of the refrigerator is graduation announcements, and the other side of the refrigerator is wedding announcements. So I think right now we have three either bridal shower or wedding announcements on the refrigerator, and so it would just benefit me if I would just go ahead and make some of these and have those ready, so when these invitations keep coming, I'm not scrambling at the last minute. So I am gonna have to do that. But a really cute, and to me it has a very fallish feel. I like that one. All right, so that is the pre-cut bundle that's in the box this month. Then always there are some different types of notions in here. So first of all is this set. This is from GE Designs, and this is a package of the quilt clips in different sizes. But then also with this there are labels, and there's 2 sizes of labels. Let me just pull this out. So 3 clips of each size. So you have the larger ones like this. I have not used the bigger ones. I have used these small ones. You've seen in other videos where I use the small ones like this for my binding. As I'm stitching it, I have these holding my binding around. Now, what they suggest you use these for, not just the bigger ones, but the smaller ones as well, is that you use this sticker sheet. And so when you are making blocks, so let me pull out this, so let's say I was making this quilt right here, and it has you cut on the back, no, on the middle. It shows you need 2 of letter A, and you need 4 of letter B, and you need 24 of letter C. So what you can do is when you're cutting your fabrics for a quilt like this, you can use these little stickers, and you can put them on the edge of the binding clips. I call them binding clips. They're quilt clips, okay? And so, but there's 2 different sizes of stickers. The small ones obviously for this one, the larger ones for this one. They even have different, there's stickers that you could write on yourself. There are these down here. There's like a strip of lines. There are stickers that have measurements on them. So maybe you wanted to label your binding, you could do that. You could put it on here, or maybe it's a certain size square. Maybe when you're cutting squares, you don't label them by either number or letter, but maybe you may label them by size. And you could do that with these as well. You could cut your different pieces and put that on the sticker on here. And then the larger ones would show up really well on the bigger clips. So let me see what else they say. So you have two sizes of numbers, 1 through 13. You also have letters A through M. These are the most common ones. You know, you really don't always need a sticker set that goes from A to Z because, you know, not too many patterns have pieces that you're cutting with 26 different letters that you would go all the way to Z. So they've used the most common ones. It has common cutting sizes and blank stickers to organize your quilting projects. And this, obviously this pack includes 3 clips of each one. So I'm sure you could come up with great ways to use those yourself. And they show them here. I got pink and blue, but they show on the package red and green. And oh, I want to show you real quick how they've labeled the sizes even. On this one up here, they have a clip right here that says 5 inches. And then they have a clip down here that says 2.5 inches. So they're labeling how big this block is by using the clips. So, might be something that you would need. And like I said, there's some blank stickers as well. So if you have some other markings that you would like to do on the clips. All right, next notion in here is a pack of needles. And these are the 90-14 needles. They say they're perfect for quilting. Personally, I tend to use 80 in mine, but not that I can't use 90. So, and I know this is what my sewing machine uses. The size and brand is a universal favorite and will work with most sewing machine brands, suitable for quilt fabrics. You can never have too many of these. Okay, so just stocking up. Then the next thing, I need to try this one. This one says iron clean. The easy way to clean your iron surface removes fusibles, facings, any sticky residues. So let me read how to use this. So let me show you the package first. It's just a cloth. So you says to heat up your iron, you lay the iron clean sheet on top of a paper towel at the edge of your ironing board. And that's important because if it leaves any residue, you don't want a stain right there in the middle of your ironing board. Wipe the base of the iron over the iron clean sheet on the edge of your ironing board until the residue is removed. So wipe base of iron with a clean paper towel. If several months of buildup has occurred, then more than one sheet may be required. So what they've done is, I've shown before the tubes of the iron cleaner, and that's usually what I've used. So evidently what they've done is they have put that same product into the sheet itself, so you're not squeezing that, and that can be kind of gooey sometimes, so you're not squeezing that out onto, I usually use some sort of a white old wash rag or something like that, and then I throw it away afterwards. I don't even wash it. It's like, I'm done with that. So they have put the product into this. This is very similar to a dryer sheet is what it feels like, but you would still need to put either an old wash rag. I would only use white. I would not use a colored one, or they suggest a paper towel. I would even do a couple layers of paper towel. I don't want anything to, I don't want any of this product to go through onto my ironing board. And even when I am using the liquid, it's kind of a, not a liquid, more of a cream, the iron cleaners that come in the tubes with the cream type stuff. I have my, the old wash rag that I'm using, I will fold it in fourths, okay? And I will put the cleaner on the top of those 4 layers and do that. I will flip it, continuing to flip it, but I always keep those 4 layers, and I try to keep the bottom one a clean one, if that makes sense. So I'm using as many parts of that wash rag as I can, but trying not to keep it directly onto the onto my ironing board cover. But this might be a good option. You wouldn't have to mess with those tubes and squeezing it out of those tubes, making sure you get all of it. You could use this one. So I will try that and get back with you and let you know how that works. This is the first time I've seen a cleaner like that. And it is made by Bonash, is the designer of that. All right, the last notion in the box is a Creative Grids ruler. These are non-slip rulers. This is the 4.5 inch square. Let me see, there are clear markings and a non-slip back, and so a Creative Grids. Never have too many rulers, right? Let me take this out of the package real quick if I can get it open. Okay, so here it is out of the package, and you can see on the Creative Grids rulers, they have a non-slip surface on the back, but not the entire thing. So it's around the edges here, and then you can see there's a dot here and a dot here. So many times people will buy these dots and put them on the back of their own rulers, and Creative Grids has done it where they are already as part of the ruler. So when you're cutting your ruler won't slip as you're cutting next to it. And so this is a 4.5 inch square, but obviously you could be using it for smaller things. It's marked for 1. You know, it's got all the half markings as well, so this can be used for anything smaller, 4.5 inches or smaller. And that's included in the box as well. And that's it for this month. Oh, no. There's one more thing. And I had taken it out of the box, and that's why I almost forgot. So each month, they also include a block of the month. And this is the third block for this quilt along. And this is always included in the bottom of the box. And this time we're doing this pressed flowers. I have not completed my block, but this is what it looks like. This one's called Pansy. It looks like a pretty simple block there. You know, the pinwheel in the middle, and some sashing strips. Now, I noticed, and I started to finish this, and then I need to take a little bit more time. The fabric that I picked for this one, that I labeled for this SKU, because I'm not using the called for colors, I have put my own fabrics together for this, and I kind of just went off. There's a sheet on Fat Quarter Shop that you can print off that shows you all the SKU numbers and shows you the different fabrics. Mine printed off kind of blurry, and so when I was picking out my fabrics, the SKU number for this one to me kind of looked like a little more of a patterned background color, kind of a white creamy color. And so the one, and then when I saw this block, the fabric that I picked for this one is actually here being used as the leaves, and I have a pale pink print that is not going to look right for that. So that's my mistake, just not doing a little deeper research to see what this fabric, the called for fabric, actually looked like. So I'm going to have to replace this one with something else, and I just didn't have time to get to that before filming. So I am going to change this fabric that I have picked out for this one to something different, because I'm using the browns. If you saw my video the last time I talked about this, I'm using browns. I have a paler brown and I have a darker brown. Maybe that gives me a good excuse to go buy another brown, because I really like the chocolate browns. And knowing that it's being used for what appears to be leaves. I mean, in this one it's like a grayish is what it looks like here. But the pink, mine is just like a pale pink, and it's just not going to work, so I'm going to have to pick out a different one. But block number 3, the Pansy one, and each block, you can buy these individually if you're interested in just doing the quilt along here, and I'll link to that down below. This fabric line, it's a Bunny Hill design. I had to think real quick. Yeah, Sugarberry by Bunny Hill Designs, and I just decided on mine, I'm going to just do pink and brown. I've never done a pink and brown quilt, and I thought this would lend itself well to that, so that's what I'm working on. So that's the last thing in the box. So there it is, and each box also has this little foldable card. Just gives you a little more information about each thing, and a good reference there to have. So I'm going to pack everything back in my box, and we will move on to the next thing. So I mentioned at the beginning, I've had the question about leaders and enders, and I've mentioned this on other videos that as I'm sewing a block, let me pull this pattern out real quick because I wanted to mention this. As I'm working on, let's say I'm working on this quilt right here, and the pattern says to make 16 half square triangle blocks, which how I make my half square triangles is I would cut the full square, and it may do it, I've not read the pattern, but I would cut my full square, layer the two fabrics that I'm going to use for that half square triangle, I would layer them on top of each other. Sometimes draw a line, a diagonal line, sometimes I just wing it, but you're going to sew down either side of that diagonal line. So let's say the pattern says to make, it says, what did it say, 8 of them. So that means I would be doing 4 squares, okay, and then cutting that apart. So let's say I'm working on this quilt and I have those pieces cut and I run those 4 through, and then I need to go back and I need to then sew down the other side of those 4 pieces. What I will do is I have leaders and enders. So many of you will use leaders and enders, and this is what I used to do. I would take just a thick scrap of fabric, or I would take 2. Sometimes I would use 2. To me, 1 piece of fabric isn't always enough to keep that tension nice. And so I will take a couple pieces of fabric, I will just layer them on top of each other, and at the end of those 4 blocks that I was quilting, I will just stick 2 pieces of fabric or a scrap and run it through afterwards. The reason is it keeps my tension all nice from one block to the next that I'm working on, and it uses less thread. So I'm not taking, I've just finished sewing those 4 blocks and I'm not stretching it out and cutting my thread. Instead, I am grabbing a scrap of fabric or a couple squares and I'm running it through right afterwards. When I got enough out there that I can reach behind and clip the thread, then I've got those 4 squares and I can run those through the machine next. Now, sometimes I will do as much, I will have all of this cut as much as I can. So say I do those 4 half square triangles, and then the next thing is a patchwork. I will have those pieces sitting on my left, is usually where I do it. I'll have those pieces on my left, and I will run those through. And then, but then eventually you get to a point, I've done everything I can. Now I need to use those blocks that or those pieces that I've already pieced. I need them back in my hand, or I need to iron them over to this, or press them over to the side, something to be able to work on the next part. And that's when I'm using leaders and enders, so that I'm not wasting that thread by pulling that out and clipping it. And also so that it keeps the tension straight. It keeps the tension. So if you've ever started a new piece of fabric through, you know how sometimes it just creates a big bundle right there, or your machine's trying to get going. If you pass a piece of fabric through there right behind the blocks that you've just pieced, then it keeps that tension even. You don't get those great big bundles, you know, or just the knotty type of thread at the beginning. So that's why I use them. But I used to just use scraps of fabric, and that's, I mean, it would get thick because I would just keep using the same 2 or 3 ones, and I mean, it would be so thick. Then this is not new to me. This is something I learned from Lori Holt, and she said she does bonus quilts by having her leaders and enders be pieces that she needs to piece anyway. So when I'm working on this quilt, I will have the pieces for that on my left-hand side, and I have sometimes on a design board, sometimes just sitting there next to me. I also have my little ironing station. This is, and I talked about this maybe last time or a couple times ago, I have a little ironing station there. It's just, it's a rolling little, it's like a 3-drawer plastic thing, but it's on casters, something you can pick up at Walmart. It's not any big deal. On top of that, and I store different things in there. On top of that, I have a rotating cutting mat that I don't use for, I don't use anymore. It's kind of worn out, but I keep that on there. And then I have probably an 8x10 piece of plywood that's covered with ironing fabric, and then another pretty piece of fabric on top of that, and I set that on top of my rotating cutting board. Then as I need to press, all of that is right here to my left. So I rotate that cutting mat with the ironing board on top of it. I press what I need to, rotate it again, press what I need to. That's all on my left-hand side. On my right-hand side, just sitting off to the side of my machine, I will have the small scrappy things that I'm working on for my leaders and enders. So let me give you an example. I keep, when I am trimming up fabrics, trimming up blocks or cutting, say I'm cutting what I need for this one, and I have small pieces of fabric left over, I will go ahead and cut those into whatever size I can get out of them. Sometimes it's only a 1.5 inch square like these. Sometimes I can get 2.5 inch squares and they go in my 2.5 inch little bucket. But the 1.5 ones I separate into these muffin tins. And so those yellows obviously didn't go with those pinks. So I have some aqua blue ones. I'm getting really down on those. These are mostly pinks, different ones. Obviously some blacks here. I've got a bunch of gray. More, these are purple. They looked black for a second. Those are purple. And I have blue ones down here. And some other ones, some other golden ones hiding underneath there. Okay. So I have this sitting next to my sewing machine. I also have a cup, just an old enamel cup, filled with neutral colors, mostly white, but you can find all different kinds in here. Cream color ones, they're just all in this cup because I use them for all the different blocks I'm using. I pulled this one out because this one background is white, but when you sew with this, it shows up black. I've tried it and it really distracted, so I don't really want to use those for my neutrals anymore. I also have a second one, okay? So this is just the way, it's an easy way for me to store them is right here. So when I'm needing a leader and ender, I will be working on, so let's say I want to do a gray. I will pick up one of the gray ones, 1.5 inch squares, and I will pick up one of the neutral ones. Here is some chicken fins. Now, if I feel that this is too much gray, you can sure go ahead and use the back side instead. It's a little lighter, depending on if I need more contrast or if the whole block, if I'm gonna think that's gonna be distracting, I can always use the back. All right, so I layer those and I run it through my machine right behind the other piece blocks that I was just working on. And that's my leader and ender. I do one seam right along the side. I do my next set of 16 blocks or whatever I'm working on, and I grab another gray one, and I pick a different, that's got some pink in it. I grab a different neutral one, and I run those through. Okay? Those are my leaders and enders. But you're saying, what am I gonna do with those? This is what I'm doing with them. Here's one, here. Speaking of those gray ones, here are some grays that I've already done. Let's try to see if I had a finished one. All right, here are some grays I've already done. Now, obviously what I did is I did this one first, I did this one second, and then I have finally joined another gray one on the end of that, and I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm just creating these. So as I did those, I did those first two leaders and enders, I would then join those two together, and then I would set it off to the side. Then what I'm doing is I'm joining them like this. So this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. If I turn it this way, I guess it's easier to see, rows or columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my leaders and enders together in a foursome, okay? So here's one, here's two. Here's another one, just turn the other way, and here's another one, turn the other way. I'm creating a row. Imagine it without this one right now, okay? I'm creating 5 rows like this. So one I'm doing it this way, the next one I'm doing it this way, okay? That's what's here. To finish the checkerboard, I need one more row. So these are this way or this way, however you want to do it. I need one more row here, but it needs one little extra square on the end, and that's what this one is. Now this is a mix of grays and blacks. You can see that. It doesn't have to be the same print. These are called Chex Mix blocks. I learned this from Lori Holt. Not original to me. All right. Here is a red one. This one also has the 5. I picture it this way because I guess that's how that last time this goes through the sewing machine, it's like this. It's joining those 5 rows this way, And then here is my next one, but you'll see I need to add one more block on the end. I got a corner sticking out there. I need to grab one more red one and put it on here. Now, before I attach it to this, now you can see this red block, all of them are the same fabric. Sometimes I do the same, sometimes I mix them up. All right, let me show you some of my other blocks that I have finished. And again, this is just sitting next to my sewing machine. And so this is a long-term project. This is a project that you don't have to think anything about. And I am just doing it in between a more scheduled project that I'm working over on my left-hand side. So my right-hand side are these. So I have red ones. Those have different blocks. Now that one, all the whites are the same, but the reds are different. I have a blue one here. All the blues are the same and all the whites are the same. I have some others. Here's a pink one. And these are all, like I said, these are all scraps from other projects. From recently to long ago. So let me just show you, I won't show you everything. Here's some brown one. This is a different brown one. This one's got a mix of different browns in it. And you might even notice some of those browns from my Scrappy spools, the spool ends. Here is one that's all reds or polka dot and all the whites are the same. Purple. Another brown, another blue. Here's like a muted red, and this one has different colors. And so that's why I'm separating them by, there are different fabrics in the muffin tin. So like here's two different greens. They're not exact. They're not even from the same line. This is a Lori Holt print. That is a Camille Roskelley print. But they're similar enough that I can just keep them in the same tin and use them when I'm making a green block. I might have had a green block. Let me see. Here's one I'm working on. I don't like this one as well. The greens are too different in this one for me. So this is more of an aqua green and this is more of a, a lime green type of look. And I don't like those two mixed. So I will probably pull this apart and fix that one. I just didn't like the look of that one. Here's a green. This one has some Lori Holt that I've used at some point. So all different ones. Here's a black. This was some farm prints that I had. That looks a little funny, but in a big quilt, who knows. Here is a blue, that all different blues right there. Okay, so like I said, this is a project that is just sitting next to my machine. Let me show you all these things in process. This one, and I pin. I want my things to come out straight. So I pinned, and this one is finished. So at some point I just need to pull out the pins and press that there. But I have them in all different states of completion. It's just whatever I'm working on. Here's 2 rows of this blue. Pinned, they're done. I need to pull those apart and find other ones. Sometimes on my little lunch trays here, I will stack, you know, say I'm working on red, I'll have all the red ones over here, all the green ones, blue ones, so that when I'm ready, I can pick up a blue there, I can pick up another one here, another one here, and then I can just put them together. So that's why I have them on the lunch tray as well. So let me show you the full quilt that this would make. I have not finished a quilt with these. I'm still just working along, but let me show you. Lori first showed this on, or mentioned it on her YouTube channel, but last year she put out this Scrappiness is Happiness book, and it has so many of the quilts that she has talked about on her YouTube channel, where she gave the measurements and all of that on her YouTube channel. She's now put it all into a book. And so I have, let me show you. In here, it's called the Chex Mix Quilt. Let me see if there's a picture and not just a drawing of it. No. All right, let me just show you that. So she takes those blocks, she then adds sashing around those blocks, alternating the sashing. Here's a dark sashing with a lighter sashing. And not sashing per se, because you're actually putting them around each each block there and then putting those blocks together. Where to me sashing is I would be putting them in between the blocks horizontally, but then vertically I would be adding you know, one long strip, and that's not what you're doing here. You're actually putting them around each block. So that's what you can do with leaders and enders, all right? Another one that I started recently, you know, sometimes you get squirrels going, and so Lori mentioned, oh, I don't know if it was, I don't know when it was, but she, let me show you one. She mentioned that she was doing leaders and enders, or she mentioned this block here. And you can go back and find her YouTube channel where she talks about this. And this is obviously very timely in that we just had July 4th. But this is a quilt that can be done with leaders and enders. Right now, I'm just working on the blues and whites. And all the measurements are here in this book. But let me show you some of my blocks. And again, you can do leaders and enders. It doesn't have to be a complicated project, but it needs something that is repeatable, that you remember what you're doing. So like these Chex Mix blocks, they're super easy. It's just a colored one and a neutral one. This one is a little more complicated, but it's not bad at all. So I start out just doing my 2 squares together. These are 2 neutrals together. Then you also need some that are the blue fabric. That one's a bad one because I had 3 pieces of fabric instead of 2. Then some others are just the blue fabric with a neutral. Okay, that's all I'm doing at first. I do have this design board that sits next to me, and as I'm working on those, then like here's 2 neutrals that are pressed open, and I have others that have been sewed, but I haven't pressed them. I just work on the pressing. When I'm doing other projects on the left, I'll just grab some of these and press them as well. Then those, the blue and the white and the neutral, are then put with 2 cream colors. And let me see if I have one. Thought I had, okay, like this. So I know that I just need 2 of these put together. So these 2 are joined, and then the next thing is you do take one of the blue squares and you sew it across diagonally. I've already trimmed my behind one there, and that makes the star print. So this is just the 4 patch that I did. It's 2, whichever way I did it. It's a blue and a cream one with 2 cream ones, and then you add these on, and here's one that's finished that I haven't trimmed the backing yet, but I will trim those. And then you put those 4 of those together and you get this cute little star block. So I have done tons of these Chex Mix ones, and I just decided when I saw Lori do this several months back, I thought that would be a fun one. And this is again leaders and enders. I'm pulling from the same cup. I'm just using all the blue ones. So here I've got blues, and I think in the other one I had blues as well, because I have a ton of these. This is a fabric that I've used for backing, so I have a ton of these blues. So I'm actually using all the same blues in this. So you can see I've got several stars done. Others are in the process. Here's one that's got 2 of them together. And it's just, I'm just running pieces through at the end of my leaders. These are my leaders and enders. I'm just running them through at the end of my other blocks that I'm working on. Let me show you one other quilt that I did make, and again, that's all from this book. I originally didn't learn it from this book. I learned it off Lori's YouTube channel, but like I said, she's since published these patterns in this book. And one other that I did several years ago, and I have looked and looked for pictures, and I can't find pictures of it. This one is a little more complicated, but totally doable as well. Anything that's patchwork will work. So let me show you a picture of hers. I need to find a picture of mine. I don't know what I'm sure I sold this quilt or gave it away or something. But this one, let me show you how the block is put together. Okay, so this is a block. You can see down at the bottom. So you can see the upper right, the four corners are patchwork 4 squares. The middle part are 4 patchwork, 4 patchwork blocks. And then this block right here and this block, you're starting with that backing fabric and you're putting easy corner triangles on the two, on opposite edges. And then, so this block is the very same as this block, you're just turning them, and this block and this block. So you have 8 of them in each one, and that's what your quilt looks like. So this is something that when I did mine, I did it all Scrappy. So these are obviously bigger than, I guess you could do it 1.5, but I know I probably did mine at 2.5. And I just pulled my 2.5-inch basket next to my sewing machine, and I would grab 2 colors. See how scrappy it is? I would just grab 2 colors, sew them together, sew them together, sew them together as my leaders and enders. And then when I had plenty, then I would put 4 together. So it's just something that you can do, your bonus quilts, as Lori mentions. It's just your bonus quilts. So the best way, I think, to do your leaders and enders would be with scrappy fabrics. This one with the stars is a little more planned, but not terribly. I'm just using 1 blue, and then the rest of the creams are scrappy. So that's how you get a bonus project out of your leaders and enders, is just I have it off to one side with my other project that I'm working on the left. So I hope that helps. Hope that helps answer some questions, and a lot of fun, a great way to use up scraps. I also wanted to, if you don't have this book, I know I mention it every time I show it. Let me see. This is over 200 pages in this book. It's spiral bound, so it lays flat. It is wonderful. I'm so glad she did this, because I was taking notes when I would watch her YouTube channels, her videos, or she would hold up her pad of paper so that you could write down the measurements or take a picture of it. And she's put it all in a book, which is really helpful. Another hint, look how I marked my pages. This is washi tape. This is a great way, little bookmarks. That way I knew where I was going to show you these things. I just took a long piece of washi tape, folded it in half, put the ends on either side of the paper. A great way to make bookmarks, and it's pretty at the same time. All right, that's enough of all of those things. How about we move on to some customer quilts? I'm going to start with the one that's on the desk there. This is from Sara, and I'll let you look at some pictures while I pull it out. So this is Sara's quilt, and Sara tries to give me a new project every time we meet together. So when I drop off one quilt to her, she's always trying to finish another one to get to me, so that we make our time worth our meeting, I guess. So she is a local quilter to me, and this one is just so cute. So you can see by the bigger pictures of the quilt that this is the same block over and over. So I have a square here, and then I have this white sashing. I have a rectangle here with a square there. And then you can notice from the picture how it's just turned different ways and to create the pattern there. So I love her fabric choices. The grays are so pretty. So this pattern here with the numbers has light grays and dark grays, and then she has pulled from that to pull in these other fabrics. So, and the polka dots are so cute. This one is just almost a denim type look, but it's a gray. This black one has some, if you see that, it has some tie-dye type circles in there. And those same, not the same ones in every block, but here is, this one looks like a Zen Chic black there. And then the white sashing is just so cute, and that's a very thin white sashing, which in between the pieces, which is really, really cute. I really like that. So we took the inspiration from some of the fabrics, and we did a bubble pantograph. We used a light gray thread this pantograph is called Apricot Moon's Bubbles. So Apricot Moon Designs is the one who designed it, and I'll put all those links below. And I've mentioned before, but this pattern, if you are doing digital, or even if you're doing just pantographs, but this pantograph is really nice in that the rows overlap each other. So you some blocks are, some of the bubbles are coming down like this, others are coming up. So in the rows, you want those to overlap each other, and so there's not a lot of precise piecing, and it really goes well together. And here is the back. And Sara used this backing on another quilt and had enough of it left. We could use it on this one as well. This is a Studio E fabric. Let me see. This is a 108-inch wide, Mosaic 108-inch wide by Chelsea Design Works for Studio E. This is a pretty popular one. I've seen this one on quite a few. I would just caution when you're using this one, the 108, let me see if I can show you. I just have the little bit of selvage edge that's left. But so this is 108, meaning this is one selvage edge, and then you have 108 inches and then the other selvage edge. But notice that this is, the pattern is printed out where, to me, this looks right side up. And let me show you on her quilt. This looks right side up to me. It looks like the rainbow or the Baptist fan type thing. So this is right side up, but that's not how that fabric is printed. It's actually printed this way. So just be sure when you're buying this or other backing fabrics, the 108-inch wide, that you have enough to orient your quilt the way you want, okay? So because this one, it's going to be easiest, my preference would be to load it on the long arm this way, because I like to load with the selvages on if possible. And so then the quilt that I am putting on there would also need to be loaded sideways like this. So just be sure when you're buying the length of fabric that you need, that your quilt will fit in the way you want it oriented to that fabric. So just a note to watch there. I think this is more directional, and this quilt, it didn't matter which way, unless you say that this is up and down, but some quilts it will. So we actually did it this way, with the short end across the top and the long end down the sides, so that it's oriented this way. So let me show you real quick. This is the binder that I have all of my pantographs printed out and put in. So if I meet with somebody in person, I usually have this binder with me, and we will just flip through. I've got all the designs in sheet protectors, and we will flip through and kind of pick a design. This also helps me with scaling to kind of know, somebody can say, yeah, I like that size, or no, I want it tighter, or I want it larger. And we can do that with this. I also took time last week and updated all of these onto my website. So if you go to my website, all of these, I didn't count how many there are, but all of these are now on my website, so you can see. This is not all that I'm limited to. If you see another pattern on somebody else's quilt, or you're on Instagram or something and you see a pantograph that you like, be sure to ask me about it. If it's something that I can get, I will do that and be able to use it on your quilt and somebody else's. But so if I meet with you, we can go through the binder, and this is a good way even for in-person clients, that they can look at the pantographs ahead of time and kind of give me an idea of what they're looking for. If you're mailing in your quilts, then the same thing. You can look online. You can give me 2 or 3 suggestions that you like. Or if you have no idea, then I can pick 2 or 3 and send those back to you, so we can make a decision on what quilt to use, or on what pantograph to use for your quilt. So here is the Apricot Moon Bubbles. This is the way it looks like on the sheet. This is obviously pretty big, and we reduced this down some for Sara's quilt. And you have the different shading, because when you buy these pantographs online, it's showing you the stitches. So this is one row here, this dark set of lines, and it's showing you how you can overlap it with the rows above and below it. But the darker line shows you one stitch pass across the quilt. All right, so let's move on. I didn't give you dimensions. Sara's quilt is 51 by 40. All right, so let's move on to the star quilt at the top. So this is Sandy's quilt, and Sandy is also a local quilter with me. She's in my quilt guild, and that's how we met. And this is called Wonky Stars, and this was a block exchange that our guild did, and she has now got hers together and is ready to put the binding on so she can show it at our next meeting. This was a tutorial that was online that our past president told us about and asked if anybody would be willing to join. So you can make these blocks any way you want. There's really not, you really just need to decide on the size. So let's say if, I think these are 5-inch squares, if I remember right. So if you want a 5-inch square, this one has been done Scrappy, so she just chose, and this, I don't know which blocks were Sandy's and which blocks were other people. We all made however many blocks, and then the president took them and she did, mixed them all up, passed them back out. So I don't know if, which block Sandy made or not, but just showing you how this one was made. So you can make a solid color square. Let's see if I can go, here's one. Here's one that just has a solid middle to it. 5-inch square. Here's one that's more scrappy, done on the diagonal, just sewing pieces together. And this is one that's done more directional, horizontal, vertical, I guess I want to say. So you're creating those sew pieces together and cut a 5-inch square. Then you're cutting your background pieces. This is a 5-inch square, 5-inch square on the 4 corners. Then you're cutting your background pieces 5 inches square, or whatever size you're using, 5.5 or whatever. Then you're just laying a piece of fabric across here, sewing it some diagonal line, pressing it back so that it covers that bottom corner. So you can see some are really big, some are small. They're not meant to be symmetrical at all. Here's a larger one and a smaller one, and everybody just did what they wanted. So here's some long, tall ones, little short one there, and even these can be scrappy. So I think this is actually the block I did, if I remember right. So I did this diagonal for the middle one. And these, I took some of the other fabrics that I had sewn together and then created the triangle across there. So you can sew scraps together. This one's really cute. So here is a busier middle print, all then done in purples and bright colors. And then she used some different background. It wasn't all the same white, but a low tone white or low tone print there. Similar with this one here. So a solid center, but then she used some low tone background fabrics, not just the white ones. Let me see any others. I have seen tutorials. This one's cute because look, so she created a 5-inch square first to use as the corner one. So you have the bigger star and then some smaller stars in there too. And there are several blocks that are this way. And that's a really cute idea, especially when you're setting. We have the choice of however we want to set it. So Sandy just did it with some sashing. This really bright, pretty, went along with all the bright colors of the stars. And but if you were doing more, this really helps if you're doing either the same color background sashing or you're joining blocks next to each other. This adds a little more interest. Now what I was going to say a minute ago is I have also seen tutorials using that the Rex tool that I mentioned last week, or that I found out about last week. I am constantly learning, just like you guys are, and it's so fun because all the different quilts that I get in, I get to learn new techniques and see different things all the time. So last week we talked about with the purple quilt, I learned after the video and did a little tag at the end where that quilt was made using that the Rex ruler, so that you could get the triangle pieces. And I have seen Wonky Stars done with that ruler too. So however large you want it, you could have the triangle shape. It would be similar, you know, they would be symmetrical on all sides. This is done a little, you know, just haphazard, however wide you want it. You know, here the points don't even meet here. It's bigger there. So each one is different. But if you want a more planned, symmetrical look to your stars, you could do the same effect, but using those rulers to, or those templates. So really cute. So then Sandy did all the sashing. Her backing fabric is the same as her sashing. A nice print. And then she asked for the spiral rings pantograph. And this is so cute because to me it just creates that whole starry night effect or even firework type effect. It really complemented the stars. We didn't want to do another star print on top of this one. Not that you couldn't on some other quilt, but for this one, the brightness and the playfulness of it, the swirls in here just added to the whole night sky effect and firework type effect. So really cute. I used a cream color, so it kind of blends with the white. You really don't, you see the texture, but then it wasn't so stark on the colored prints as well. It actually even kind of blends in there unless you get really close. So a lot of fun. This could be a good idea for your guild to do, or even for yourself. Again, like I said, this is a day with lots of scrappy quilts and lots of ideas for you to use up those fabrics that you cannot throw away. You know, even those little 1.5 inch squares that I have can be used as leaders and enders and made into projects, or scrappy quilts like this is awesome. All right, so I'll put this one away and let you look at pictures of the next one. This one is so cute, and I'll pull it down while you look at some pictures. This is such a special quilt because Rachel has a special needs granddaughter, and I have seen pictures of her. She is just precious, but Rachel made this quilt for her. So bright colors, just rainbow type of colors, and Rachel said she didn't follow a pattern. So I can real quickly just show you. She has 2.5 inch squares, or 2.5 inch strips, so like a jelly roll. Joined them together, there's 5 of them, so that makes a 10-inch block right there. And so the strips are cut, you know, if you're going to do 10-inch block, you need to cut your strips 10.5 so that, and then sew 5 of these together, and that will give you a 10-inch block. So she has turned them horizontal and vertical. Then she also has, like right next to it, we have a solid 10.5 inch square, 10-inch finished. So let me look. It looks like, well, I was going to say each row has 1 solid, but not always. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 1. That one has 1. So just kind of random back and forth. You can lay them out in a pleasing design, however you like. But her granddaughter is really going to love this. And then the black sashing, not in between the blocks, but just in the rows, was really, really cute. A nice effect for that. And then around the border. And then the backing fabric is a pink bubble Minky. Rachel said she bought this at Hobby Lobby. It was super easy to use. I didn't have any troubles at all. And it is super soft. I always suggest to use batting in your with your Minky backing. Not everybody likes to, but I think it just, if you handle Minky at all, you know it's just big and bulky. It's just heavy. When you add your batting in the middle too, it just gives more form to the quilt. This is super soft, super cuddly, and her granddaughter's gonna love it. So you can see the love from a grandma to a granddaughter. I decided, she gave me full range, said you do whatever you want, and I just decided the hearts on there just really complimented the feel of the quilt and the love from grandma to granddaughter. And when she holds this quilt, she can just know grandma loves her, and it's a special project. Just for her, just for her. So this is called Dear Heart, and I've used this on other quilts. You can make it as large or small with the Minky backing and just wanting to keep it a little more fluffy. I did it a little bigger. So let me see. It's smaller than the heart right here is smaller than my hand. You could go larger, but I think this was a good feel, especially for the solid color fabrics. If I'd done it too much larger, you wouldn't have had many hearts on one. So I think this really adds to the, just to give that texture and the hearts to those solid color fabrics. Really cute. Really fun. I'm sure this was a pretty simple quilt to put together. Again, you can use your scraps and you just choose your colorway. She's obviously chose, bright colors and the colors of the rainbow. You could choose to do it in pale colors. You could choose to do it in, you wouldn't even have to do this many colors. You could choose, 2 or 3 colors, brown and blue and a cream or something like that. But this one's really cute. And the Minky backing just adds so much. It really is a super soft, cuddly quilt. I know her granddaughter's gonna love that. All right, so I have one more, and this is a very large quilt, all done in log cabins. So I'll let you look at some bigger pictures and then we'll take a look at it. I did want to mention as well on Rachel's quilt, I did use a light gray thread on that. And again, it blends in with those brighter colors really well. The Minky soaks up thread so nicely. You really don't even see a color of thread on the back with Minky at all. But the gray always does, personally, that's always my personal preference, is to use some sort of gray. I did a light gray on that because we did have some yellow prints and things. Sometimes even a darker gray would work as well, but that one, with those color fabrics, I really like to use gray because it gives you the texture without overpowering it with a white colored thread. Okay, just wanted to mention that. All right, this next quilt is from Becki, and this one I'm not going to be able to hold up really well because it is super heavy. It's a very big quilt. This one measures 92 by 93, so this is a good size quilt. She made this for her son, and he knows it's coming. And this is done reds and blacks and grays. This is all log cabins, and you can see from the larger pictures of the larger quilt how turning it different directions gives you different blocks. So here in the gray black block we have a red center, and turning it where all of the gray prints go in together, you get that block right there, and really powerful. Love the red center. Then here we did the red centers as well, but turning the blocks different ways gives you a different block. And then, I don't know if I'm going to be able to open this all up. So if I have these 4 together, I have 2 reds pointing in and 2 whites pointing in, but then when I join those beside with other blocks just like it, then in the middle, I'm creating that large white one in the middle. So I would go back and look at those larger pictures, the pictures of the larger quilt, so that you can see how the layout is so powerful with this, because you're creating those secondary patterns by using the same log cabin block. And I don't know if there's a pattern for this. I will ask Becki when I talk with her. Let me see. Oh, Donna Jordan. It says it's a Donna Jordan pattern. So there you go. I will link that down below so that you can get that. And then it's got the borders around the edge, a black one and a red one, and then another black one. To see this fabric, right? The cat fabric, isn't it the cutest? All right, you can see the pantograph really well right there. I did choose a light gray thread for this as well. And this is called Espresso. We auditioned some different ones. I had sent Becki some pictures, and she said of some other quilts that I had done, and there was a black and red quilt that I had done not too long ago that I'd used this pantograph on, and she said he likes that one. So really cute, really shows up well on the black. Then I'm not sure if you could see from the pictures that she did a pieced backing as well. Let me show you part of it. So there was some big checkerboard. And we had that same cat fabric, and then we had a red fabric there. And then the same thing on the other. So the red cat fabric and then a red. Now you'll notice the binding is done on this one. Becki asked if I would go ahead and do the binding as well, so she sent this red, and I did all of the binding. And that is a service that I offer if you're wanting your binding to be done. So now when this comes back, they pull it out of the box and it is ready to go on the bed. That's the way I like to do my bindings, is I machine stitch them to the front of the quilt, and then I hand stitch on the back. And let me, I like to hide my threads underneath so you don't see those. That's the back side. So, Becki will be excited, and I bet her son will be even more excited to get this quilt back. It's certainly cute. All right, that's all I have for today. So I hope I hope you are making, not just having lots of time to quilt, I hope you are making lots of time to quilt. And if you are in need of long arm quilting services, I will link the prep instructions and the order form down below so that you can get that to me. It has all the instructions on how to mail your quilt or get a hold of me so that we can set up a time to meet, and would just love to see what you're working on. It is so fun to have so many different types of quilts come in the studio, and enjoy working with these that you have put so much time and effort into. I just really enjoy it. So until next week, I hope you have a great week and enjoy your quilting time, and we'll see you next time.